Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Belt MMA podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have on the show today Jeff Molina, who just came out of a straight up war and won at UFC 261. My man Jeff, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Kind of like I just said off camera, my man, you're an inspiration, man. We're the same age. We're both 24, and the fact that you're living out your dreams at such an early age, man, such an inspiration. So, one question I always want to start off with, like every fighter I get on here, is, my man, like, how'd you get your start in this? Like, how'd you get interested in combat sports? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. First off, thank you, man. That means a lot. Like, that was probably the coolest thing of getting into the UFC and winning my debut in the UFC was like getting those messages, hearing things like that. Like, man, it's inspiring knowing like you're a young dude and you're kind of like living out your dreams. So that's really cool to hear, man. As far as how I started in this sport, man, it's hard to kind of come and try to find like the origin story of how I got started. Like, I think of that a lot, especially like the more interviews I do. It's like that's a common question, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what made me choose this. Like, I wish I could be like, oh, my mom didn't hug me enough, like, no, she hugged me plenty,
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, this is just something that's it sounds corny, but like always been a part of me. Like, from a kid, I'd watch like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Jackie Chan. So like, man, funny enough, like growing up, I would like play with WWE action figures and I wouldn't like make them wrestle. I would like make them beat each other up, and I get like a red watercolor marker and I draw blood on their faces. So it's just always been something that, and I did that for a long time, man, until an age I probably shouldn't be playing with action figures anymore,
Yeah.
So I also did my parents couldn't really afford like karate, taekwondo, or to put me in martial arts. So like we would do all the trial periods for karate and taekwondo. So like some of them are like a week long, some of them are like a month long. So we hit up, I used to live in Jersey. So in Jersey, we hit up like every martial arts school within like a 30-mile radius where you get like the trials done. So that was always fun, man. Then when I moved here to Kansas, I got into Kung Fu. My cousin was paying for the classes and I got my black belt in Kung Fu. And then one day I saw MMA or UFC on the TV and I was like, I want to do that. And Googled MMA gyms near me and kind of the rest is history.
Yeah. And like, was the first MMA gym that you went into, was it Glory MMA or was it a different MMA gym at the start?
It was a different MMA gym, man. The gym was called HD MMA. It was about a 30-minute drive from my house. It was owned by LC Davis, who fought for the WEC, and Jason High, who's a UFC vet, PFL vet, Dream vet, World Series vet, everything vet. Yeah, he's been around for a while, man. He's still one of my coaches, one of my main coaches. He's still my guy. But yeah, I've been with that guy since I was 14.
That's what's up, man. And tell us a little bit about like, your first days at that MMA gym. I know you said you like did trial periods at, karate, and then you also got your black belt and Kung Fu. So it's like, tell us about like, the first day in the MMA gym. Was it one of those experiences you're like, man, this is, like you said, like, this is what I always wanted to be, or you're just like, man, this is a lot rougher than I expected it to be?
A combination of all of that, man. Yeah. It's like, whoa, this shit's hard. Like, this isn't my fucking kung fu katas. This is the real deal. And at the same time, it was also like, man, I really want to do this. Like, I was kind of hooked instantly, man. Like, I knew I wanted to fight after like my first day of training. Not to mention, back then I got to train with this, like, she was a cheerleader for the Kansas City Chiefs. And she was also an MMA fighter. So she was she had some like notoriety back then, and there was like articles written about her and she was on the news, but she was training at that gym. And me being like a 14-year-old kid, I'm like, dude, this chick's hot, I'm getting to like roll around with her. So I was having a blast, man. So yeah, almost instantly I knew that's like what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's what's up, brother. So, and like, I know you said it's like, you're like, at first you're like, yo, this girl's hot and everything like that, but was she putting the beating on you, my man? Like, was it like, how bad was it?
It was like triangle chokes, arm bars, I wasn't too mad at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, hey man, another day of this won't hurt. You know what I mean? At least I'm getting better, right?
Is
Yeah,
this what MMA is? I want to do this every day. Nah,
yeah.
man. But yeah, she was beating me up. Yeah, I remember the first time I sparred with her, dude. She hit me with like 100 leg kicks in like a 5-minute round. And the next day I was still in high school and I couldn't even like walk, man. So I remember like limping everywhere, like limping to lunch, limping to my next period. Yeah, so it was fun stuff for sure.
God, I mean, did you have that as a badge of honor though? Like, you're limping around like, school and everything like that. People are asking you. I'm assuming you had to tell the story like 100 times. So was it kind of like, yeah, man, I'm training MMA, or was it one of those like, I'm gonna keep it down low, we'll just make up a story and just be like, yeah, so that happened.
Yeah, it was. I definitely kept it on the down low. It ended up coming out like, oh, Jeff's training MMA.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was kind of going to be the stigma. Though. I was like, oh, this kid thinks he's a badass, and that's what I wanted to avoid. So I was pretty down low about it. I did it for like a year and a half before anybody knew. But I had a kickboxing fight, and one of my buddy's moms on the wrestling team caught wind of it somehow. I forgot how it was, but the kid on the wrestling team told everybody on the wrestling team. They told the wrestling coach, and they were like, dude, you got a fight coming up? And I was like, yeah, man, it's my second kickboxing fight. And yeah. So actually all the guys went, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like you're living a superhero life. The Peter Parker, you don't want anybody to know your secret identity. So the fact that everyone found out was like, that's pretty cool. So, man, so how was it though? I mean, like you said, it's like, you get to the MMA gym, like you knew like after the first day, that's what you wanted to do. That's what you need to pursue as a career. And then you finally get to your first kickboxing fight, right? And then obviously, right, like you get the crowd, everything like that. It must have been a whole different, pressure that you were feeling, or was it one of those that you're like, hey man, this is what I want to do, and if this is what I want to do, I gotta learn how to control these pre-fight jitters.
Yeah, it's the first fight, it's always tough. It's always like a range of emotions. For me, it wasn't like I was Joey Cool out there and it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a fucking world champ right off the bat. And I was like, oh man, I was like, I think I just turned 15 or 16. I just turned 16. I still had braces on my face. I was still a kid, man. I was fighting like a 23-year-old man. And it was at like some hillbilly bar in like the buttfuck Missouri. And I remember my parents coming with me. They drove me to the event, and because I couldn't drive. And I remember my mom just like covering her eyes, like I can see her through the cage, just like doing this. And yeah, I was nervous, and it took me like the first round, dude. I got nailed with a head kick in that fight. And I saw like a little flash inside my head. It was probably the first time I got like rocked. And that kind of woke me up. It was like, oh, this isn't sparring. This guy's really trying to hurt me. And my coach just told me the same exact thing in the corner, like, hey dog, like pick it up, man. This isn't sparring. You don't got to be nice here. So in the second round, I TKO'd him with like a liver shot, and yeah, that was a real good feeling, man. But as far as like being like, natural to fighting, no, it wasn't that. I got head kicked in the first. I definitely lost the first round. And then I kind of woke up, and second round got the TKO. Funny story about that, man. That guy I fought that night, I fought him years later as a pro. Wow. I think it was like my third, fourth pro fight. I fought him like at a baseball stadium as a professional. So that was kind of like a full circle, cool story there.
Oh, that's
but after
awesome.
that first win, man, like I knew I was hooked after the first day of training, and I knew I was like addicted after that first win. Like I was like, dude, I need this for the rest of my life. Like I need to bottle up what I'm feeling right now and just keep it and just open it up whenever I need a little like motivation or something,
Yeah, man. And that's awesome. And then you kind of alluded to a little bit about like, parents, they were there, they drove you to the fight, they were watching the fight. So were they always supportive of this dream of you going into combat sports? Because I know like, for me coming from Hispanic parents, sometimes when I'm just even watching UFC, they're like, man, that's a tough sport, man. I don't know how they do it. So for you, like, were your parents always supportive, or you kind of had to, nudge them a little bit to be like, hey, mom, dad, I got this. Just watch.
Man, there were, I get you on the whole Hispanic thing, dog. Trust me, I get you. But for some reason, I think I know why. Like I was kind of a rebellious teen, kind of an asshole a little bit, and I was starting to get into trouble. So I did like a trial class at HDMMA. It was in the summer, and then they shipped me off to Colombia for like 3 months because I was getting into a ton of trouble, man. So I'd never been, and and I was there for 3 months, and it did keep me out of trouble. And then when I came back, so when I started training, so I think they kind of viewed this as like an outlet to kind of like stop hanging around the wrong people and kind of get my shit together. Mm-hmm. And man, I'm glad I did that, dude. Like, this sport has taught me a countless amount of life lessons. It's made me a better person. And yeah, it was kind of weird looking back at it, how supportive they were, but they were still like kind of pulling away from like me fighting. Mm-hmm. Like the first couple kickboxing fights I had them when I was like 15, 16, 17, I could tell they were like, oh, like, I don't know if I want my kid doing this. And I get it, you know, but man, throughout the amateur MMA fights and the pro MMA fights, like they slowly started like growing. And now they're like my number one fans, man. They haven't missed many events. They missed the debut just because it was in Jacksonville. My dad had some medical issues going on. But yeah, they're super supportive, and they love the sport, man. And they understand the sport, which is crazy. Like, you know, they watch the fights every Saturday, like every weekend. They don't miss a UFC event. And it's crazy to watch fights with them. And like my mom's like, oh, that's a tight arm bar. That's a tight arm. Oh, he slipped out. Oh, he switched into a triangle. I'm like, God, Mom, what the fuck? Like, when did this happen? You know, so. Mm-hmm.
And you got her asking any questions. It's like, yo, like, hey, can you teach me how to do that just in case? Like, you guys are like watching the fights, and then in the middle of like the living room, you guys are already going over jiu-jitsu moves.
Yeah, I for sure seen her hit a guillotine on my pops a couple times, for sure. Yeah,
that's funny, bro. So yeah, man. So like, you know, like you said, it's like, you know, they eventually came along and became your fan. So like, tell us a little bit like about you got the call for the Contender Series, man. So it's like, it must have been like that, like, you know, as a, you know, obviously like, you know, your parents at the start, like, you know, the fact that they were really supportive from the start, and then you kind of have to nudge them a little bit, but at the same time, it was like, as time went on, like they got more supportive. So how did it feel? You know what I mean? Like, was it?
It was actually the first call I made, man.
Yeah.
So I had fought a couple days prior to getting the call to the Contender Series. I want to say like 3-4 days. And, you know, we kind of knew that with a finish over the guy I beat would result in something good, something big. We didn't know if it was short notice. We didn't know if it was Contender Series. And I got FaceTimed by my coach and my manager. They were out to eat, and they're like, man, you're going to be on Dana White's Contender Series. And I was like, what? Dude, I felt like a little kid. I was like jumping on the couch, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, this is, you know, incredible, and this is sick. And, you know, like, dude, we're going to make this happen. Like, I'm going to get that contract. I don't care what happens that night. Like, I'm walking away with the contract. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, we believe you, man. And they told me, you know, I'll see you Monday. And it was like a Saturday or Sunday, I think. The next call I made right after that with my mom, she was at work, and she snuck away. She's like, hey, what's up? It's kind of rare that I call her. I usually just text her, and I let her know the news. She's like, oh my God, that's awesome. After that, hung up, called my pops, told him the same thing. And yeah, dude, they didn't quite understand like the like how big that is. But you know, after having some conversations with them, they're like, oh shit, like this is it, you know?
Yeah.
This is like the interview. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you fly to Vegas, and then obviously, like you said, it's like, I mean, you've been wanting to do this since you were 14. I hear you say that in a lot of post-fight interviews. You know, you get to Vegas, you go to the UFC Apex, you see, I'm assuming, all like the Ultimate Fighter jerseys as you're walking down the hallway and everything like that. So like, you know, what were the feelings there? You're like, holy crap, I'm like this close to realizing my dream. So like, how did that feel?
Yeah, for sure, man. That was like going to the PI, and so they fly you out like a month previous to the Contender Series to do like the media stuff for it. Mm-hmm. And then we got to use the PI at that point. So I got to see all that, man. The jerseys, like Forrest Griffin's there, and he's shaking my hand. He's like, what's your name, man? Like, I'm like, nice to meet you. And I'm like, dude, I just shook Forrest Griffin's hand. Like, that dude's a fucking legend. And I'm using the UFC PI cage to work out in, and I'm seeing these high-level athletes. And I'm like, dude, I'm here. Like, I'm knocking at the door. Yeah, it was surreal, man. And it's like a hard balance of like, act like you've been here, Jeff. And it's also like, well, what the fuck, you know? Like,
yeah.
People on TV, you know, like I legit grew up watching these people on TV. So to be like considered a colleague or like a coworker now is pretty cool. Like, man, I had Forrest Griffin texting me after my last fight telling me, Mr. Fight of the Night, what's up? Like, dude, what the fuck? Like, who would have thunk it?
Yeah, man, that's crazy, brother. That's crazy. And then it's like, man, you end up, I mean, obviously you end up getting the win in the Contender Series, but like, speak of, like, talk a little bit about, like you said, like in the post-fight press conference, you said you might have broken your foot in the first round. So did you end up breaking your foot? Because I know you said you had to get X-rays right after, but if you did, like, how did you manage through the pains, man? Because like most people, they would have gone down, but for you, like you said, it was like at all costs, you were gonna make that dream come true. So tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
I knew something was wrong, man. I knew something. I kick a lot at my fights, and it was like it wasn't super painful. I guess it was like a numbing pain, so it was just a different type of pain. But I knew something wasn't right, and so after the fight, we go get the X-rays done. They're like, great news, your foot is fine. I'm like, perfect. Mm-hmm. But your leg is broken. I'm like, what? I had a proximal fibula fracture in my leg, which is what caused like the numbing to kind of shoot down my leg. Yeah. But I knew something was up, man, because for about so they did an X-ray first to kind of clear out the foot breaking. So I actually didn't figure out my leg was broken until like 2 weeks after that point. But I knew something wasn't right, man, because like 2-3 weeks after the fight, I'm like, dude, it still hurts a lot. Like my leg is still aching, and I know what post-fight soreness feels like. I've been in plenty of those to experience that, but I knew something wasn't right. And at that point, man, I was squatting like 200 plus pounds and on a broken leg, and I was like, dude, something isn't right. Like, this hurts way more than I'm supposed to. And like 2 or 3 days after Contender Series, I went hiking with a bunch of buddies at the Red Rocks out in Vegas. None of us have ever been. They came out to support me, and I was in a ton of pain. I was still on crutches, man. But I was like, I didn't want to hold back my buddy's experience just because I'm hurt. They came out here just to watch me. Like, I'm not going to be a bitch. So I remember being in so much pain, dude, like climbing up these rocks with like these crutches. And I'm like, something isn't right. And yeah, it was my leg, man, not my foot that I had a break in it.
Man, that's tough, brother. So like in that, for the recovery process, because I know you said it's like you had I'm assuming you had the fight in August, and then after that, like I heard you talking about other post-fight interviews that you were booking fights for November and January, and then like before that, like how was the recovery process for that, dude? Because it's like it's a fractured leg, still a fractured leg. So like how was the recovery process? Was it quick? Was it kind of grueling? How'd it go?
Yeah. It we had already signed the contract for to fight November 14th. Yeah. The day after Contender. It was a day or two. I think it was the next day, actually. The day after Contender Series. We signed the contract to fight Adeshev. And so we got the news that my legs was broken. It was like, what do you want to do here? And I was like, man, I think I can mitigate it. Like, I think I can just so every time I practice, I would only put a shin guard on the other leg, and I wouldn't kick with it. And if the drill involves them kicking my leg, I would switch my stance and kick my other leg. So we were kind of babying it a lot during that camp. And maybe it was a good thing that I didn't fight in November. Maybe it was a good thing my opponent got COVID, because who knows how the leg would have been for that fight. But I had full on 100% plans to compete that night.
Yeah, man. And then like, you eventually do end up getting your UFC debut in April at UFC 261. And then obviously like by that time your leg was good. You got past the Corona. You said you also got it in January. So dude, like I you answered this question so many times in other interviews, but I have to ask it again. How did it feel going from the Apex to a crap load of fans just screaming out watching you fight? Because it must have been a whole different set of like adrenaline just like pumping into that fight.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was different for sure, but exactly what I expected. Like anytime I pictured myself fighting in the UFC, there was always people in the background. There was always people in the seats, and I pictured that arena vibe, and it was exactly what I thought it would be. Like, it was exactly what I pictured. And I'm like, I never pictured myself fighting in the UFC in front of 5 people. Yeah. How it was for Contender Series. You could hear a fucking pen drop in there. Like it was dead silent. So it was surreal, man. It was awesome having 15,000 people kind of cheer for you or boo you, whatever it was, like it was cool.
Yeah. And have you gotten the chance to rewatch the fight, especially with like all the commentary and everything like that, especially in that third round, that like DC just screaming out, it was like, yo, Jeffrey Molina's the man, as like you're going off like a couple of combos. How did it feel just watching yourself pretty much like looking like a video game character out there, just unloading combos on the guy, which, tough SOB, because another person would have probably been down. But how did it feel in that moment, just rewatching that fight, just knowing that you were there.
I watch that fight a couple times a week, man. Like I'm big on film, so especially going into this fight, like I'm gonna watch the habits and mistakes I was making in that fight and learn from it. And I watched that fight at least 100 times, at least. So yeah, I've watched it, and it feels good, man. It feels good. I remember we were watching it at the gym maybe a week or two after it happened, and the whole team. Can you hear me there, brother?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. The whole team was like sitting around these benches, and we're watching it, and it's the third round, and I'm putting in work, I'm feeling myself, and right before that 10-second mark, I just turn off the TV. I'm like, well, that's it, boys. I
feel like those last 10 seconds didn't happen. We're good.
But like things like that, that was a silly mistake. Like I'm putting in like a 10-8 round, and it's probably not the best idea to point to the ground and just duck your head and start slugging, but it is what it is, and I'll learn from that.
Yeah, man. And then like, you're behind a great team, Glory MMA and like that. So talk a little bit about like, just training at such an awesome gym. You got James Krause at the helm. Then you also got Grant Dawson. You got Kevin Kroom. You got Derek Miner, a bunch of other fighters that like, I can probably go on and on. And, how does it feel, training in such an elite gym that like, I feel like now people are starting to realize like, this gym is no joke. It can be mentioned along the same likes as like ATT or, Jackson's.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And I think James Krause deserves all the recognition. For some reason, he wasn't even mentioned as coach of the year. You had people like, and this is no knock on these people I'm about to mention, but like Jason Perillo, fucking Khabib. Like Khabib's like greatest fighter of all time, are in conversation to be that. But it's like, dude, Khabib isn't a coach, man. Like he went 3-0, but he's coaching teammates. Like,
yeah,
and then Perillo is drunk every weekend, fucking, cornering, not every weekend. This dude only has Chito Vera and Mackenzie Dern, and those are great athletes, but it's like, dude, like I came to Krause when I was 1-2 as a pro. So like he built me up. He's built Grant Dawson up. Like he's built people from scratch, and you got someone like Trevor Whitman who was nominated as well, who they're including like Usman. I'm like, dude, Usman was a world champ. Usman was a world champ when Whitman got his hands on him. And I'm not saying like they haven't improved, but it's like, dude, his track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't what you asked, man, but it kind of does irk me for James not to get that recognition. Like this dude spent 6 weeks in a row in Vegas. For 6 weeks, we had a UFC fighter on the card, one fight for a world title. So it's frustrating, and he's not going to say anything about it. So I am, it's like, dude, so so they're nominating for the year 2021 for this year. And there's still I don't know how many months are left in this year, but there's still a lot of the year to go. And so far this year, we got Grant Dawson with a bonus, with a performance of the night bonus for last second knockout. We got Julian Marquez with 2 performance of the nights. I think one was a performance of the night, one was a fight of the night in this year. So that's two wins for Julian. We got myself with the fight of the night bonus. Who else did we have this year? We had TJ Brown this year winning the UFC. We had Derek Minner winning the UFC this year. Tim Elliott's another one. Jason Witt with the fight of the night bonus. Like, dude, how do you not nominate this guy? How do you put Khabib, who's cornering 3 teammates and has been coaching for fucking 6 months? Like, I don't get it, man. And there's people on there that should be on there, like Eric Nixick, but I know this wasn't what you asked, man, but like it just irks me that his name isn't even like in contention. It's like, what? Like,
I get you, but like, I feel like especially on my side, I feel like especially in the MMA community, especially online, maybe Twitter, Instagram, I feel like people are finally starting to realize it now. I mean, in terms of like the top of the top, I don't know what the hell they're watching. Like you said, we all believe the same thing. James Krause should be nominated. So the fact that he isn't, I don't know what the hell's happening, but at least the MMA community now is starting to realize, like, James Krause is the man.
For sure. And at least people are realizing it, but it would also be nice for like, an MMA website to recognize it as well. It's like, I just don't get it, man. But as far as being able to train at the gym under Krause, it's awesome, man. Like the culture and atmosphere he's created is like second to none. Like I've trained at many big gyms, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen, man. And we're all a family there. I know everyone says that, and it's cliche, but we really are, man. Like I would take a bullet for about each and every one of those guys there. So yeah, it's awesome, man. We've got a room full of killers too. Like, it's there's never an easy an easy day in the gym. There's no easy round either, really, man. Like, they're all a bunch of sharks. From like our low-level amateurs, our low-level amateurs can compete with high-level pros right now. I guarantee it. So, man, I get to train with Tim Elliott, which is a guy I've been looking up to since I was a kid. I say that a lot, but it's true. You know, like I remember watching Tim live for Titan. I went to that event with my brother. He won tickets like on the radio. Tim was fighting on that card, and I think he had just got cut from the UFC the first time. I fought this Brazilian cat and just put on like the best, most entertaining performance I'd ever seen. Just an ass whipping for 5 rounds, throwing cartwheel kicks, doing backflips, fucking 360 takedowns. Like, I was like, man. So a lot of my style is based off Tim's, just like wanting to constantly do damage and be violent. And like, you know, my style is entertaining. Like if I was a fan or another fighter, like I'd want to watch myself. Like, I'm like, dude, that guy's always going for the kill. No matter what spot he's in, he's always looking to do damage. So I got that from Tim. So to be able to train with him day in, day out is awesome, man. Just the team we have there is incredible, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. But and you know, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. I know you said you got a fight on October 20, October 23rd. So talk about a little about that. You know, when you start to get onto that fight. And yeah, man, you know, how's training going?
It's going well, man. 9 weeks out as of yesterday. So still got plenty of time, but I'm already in great shape. I'm probably the best shape I've ever been in starting a camp. You know, I'm a fat kid at heart, and I like to enjoy some food out of season. So, yeah, I get pretty big sometimes, but this is probably the best shape I've started to camp in, and I'm feeling great, man. I love the matchup. Find Daniel Muho, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's tough. He's aggressive, man. Everyone at this level is good. I just know I'm better than this guy. I know I'm better than him everywhere. And there's no way this fight's going to a decision, man. With the way he comes forward and the way he swings and the way I come forward, like there's no this fight's not going the distance, man. And I think this is the fight where I have my breakout performance. I feel like I've had glimpses of what I can do, but I haven't had that all out, put it all together performance. Ever as a pro. I had it in one of my amateur fights where I was like, I felt like I was in the Matrix and I was just piecing everything together. And you hear that from a lot of fighters, man. Like, oh, dude, I was in the Matrix for that fight. Like, I saw everything, and you were doing what you were doing in the gym. And I've yet to have that, man. I've had glimpses of it. I've had glimpses on it in the Contender Series where I'm doing what I know I can do, but I've yet to have a whole fight where it's just like, oh, you know, this kid's good, man. This kid and my coach know how good I am. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I've just yet to piece it all together, and this is the perfect fight to do so.
Yeah, man, and especially in a division at 125 that I feel like, you know, you win a couple, like 1 or 2 more fights, you're in contention for a title shot. Or, you know, how do you feel like, you know, in the next 6 to 8 months? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like in the next, like, if you win 1 or 2 fights, you could be right there for a title shot? Who, you know, against possibly Brandon Moreno, if he's still the champion by then, it could be a big fight, especially for the Hispanic community. Colombia versus Mexico, who knows?
Yeah, man, it's crazy to know that this division isn't that deep. It's not. There's not that many people in it, and they're signing new people every day, and they got Contender Series coming up, and I'm sure they're gonna add. I think there's a flyweight every episode, so I'm sure they're gonna add a handful of people this year. But yeah, man, I'm only a couple fights away from really breaking into the rankings. And to be honest, man, I'm in no hurry. Like, I just turned 24 last month. I know I'm going to be the champ one day. And I don't care when it is. You know, I just need to hold that belt once. And you know, my dream would have become accomplished. And, you know, I got goals on after that. But, you know, I'm young. I get better every day. Whether I have a fight lined up or not, I'm in the gym, and I'm just no hurry to get there. If I have to fight every single flyweight in this division before I get a title shot, I'll do that. I'll do just that. But yeah, I know one day I will be fighting for that belt, and I don't care who's holding it.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I can't wait to see it, brother. You know, once again, like I said at the start, my man, like, you know, I really appreciate you giving me the time. You know, it's awesome seeing someone my age living out their dreams. So, you know, it's just inspiration for me to live, you know, try to work to, you know, make my dreams come true. So once again, brother, thank you so much. And before we go, though, do you want to plug in your social media so everyone watching can go and follow you?
Yeah, for sure, man. Instagram handles J Molina _125. I believe Twitter's the same. Don't use Twitter much, but I plan on using it a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. I got time. And yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And, yeah, brother. Anytime, and hopefully we can do this again. So once again, brother, if I don't talk to you before your next fight, best of luck, and to everyone watching, peace.